Today we are going to learn how you can use Docker Compose file to spin up a containers. What is a Docker container file and what is a Docker Compose file? Docker file is nothing but your image where you are going to whatever the images you have set. For that you need to have a Docker file, and Docker Compose file is the way to run a container. It's an alternate approach for running a container. Let's say if you are typing a command line or on terminal, whatever the images are present on a Docker hub, you will utilize those image name and you will spin up those particular container on typing the terminal. But as your custom images or as your command increases, it's a very tedious to type the name as well as the parameters on the command line. Instead of that, if you create a Docker Compose, it will be easy for you to spin up your container. So let's say my app name is, let's say, my app. Okay, inside that I'll just open this on terminal and I'll write code dot. Okay, so this is the Visual Studio I have opened. How I was able to open the Visual Studio by typing the command. You can type shift command P in on Mac and you can install shell commands. Okay, so once you are able to open the Visual Studio, first thing you have to write is docker compose yml file. As it's a yml file, you have to make sure you are keeping the right indentation to write the Docker Compose file. Docker Compose files have some steps to work on to run the container. First step is you have to write the version. You have a version of 3.8. Then after that you will write services. So basically services is the grouping of your various, you can write multiple containers in the same Docker Compose. In our case, let's say I want to run a PHP app, so I'll name the services a PHP app. After that I'll type, if I'll go on typing the exact what are I'm looking for in this particular PHP app. So first I need to have a container name. My container name is, let's say, PHP my app. Then I should have a, once I have a container name, I have to mention what image I am going to pull for this particular container. It's a PHP 8.0. then I'll name it's PHP Apache. So this is the official image which you are going to pull for the Docker Compose. Then we need to mention the what are the volumes we are going to stick. So I will write it's a .php src slash, and then here it's a var slash ww slash html. So these are the volumes I am going to attach. Then the ports. The ports is let's say I need to have 3006, any port number you want to utilize to run your container. Then the port 80 I'm going to bind. Okay, so we should have at least 4 parts in your container. This is your actual container service name. Inside that service name we are having a container PHP my app, and the image which we are going to use, the PHP 8.0 Apache. Volumes, this is the volume PHP source www.html, and the ports which we are going to consider. Make sure you have a space. Okay, so now your Docker Compose file is ready. As I mentioned, I'm going to have this PHP folder for my development environment, so I'll just create a PHP folder. Inside that I need a src folder, so I'll create a src folder. Inside that I'll be having a index file, let's say for my development environment. So I'll write php, and inside that I'll just write echo welcome to php dev env using docker compose. Okay, this is the file we have wrote. Now I'll just run the container. I have used control shift until to run the container, or you can just write run new terminal here, or you can go to here and you can type the same method command. What is the command to run this container? I'll just check, are we on the right path? Yes, we are able to see the docker compose file. So I'll just write docker compose up. Once I've wrote this, I have to just hit enter and click on up, and I have to see what is the port I have mentioned. It's a 3006. So I have to go on browser and I'll type localhost 3006. So you can see our PHP development environment is ready by using docker compose. It's very easy to make the changes in your file. It's like the same which we do in a docker non-docker methodology. It's just a file. Go to that file. I'll just save this file with h2 tag, and if I close, save this file, and if I run the, you can see the file is saved and we are able to run this. How we can stop the container? You have to just on the terminal you can just type Control C and your container has stopped. If you go and run this, you can see the container has stopped. How you can run the container again? You have to just go to the file. Let's say this is the folder. You can right click, open a new terminal tab. You can type code dot to start the development again, and to run the container, either you can in Visual Studio you can run docker compose up, or you can just simply on the same file, you can same terminal, you can write docker compose app, and your app is ready to work. Here is the easiest way to run the docker container using docker compose file. I hope you like this video. I'll give you the quick way to remember these steps. These are only 9 lines which you are going to run write to spin up your container. And the first thing which you have to remember is, I'll just close this so that you will see what are the two main things you need. You need a version, and then you need a services. In services you will write whatever the name you want to add for that services, and then inside that service name you will have a 4 important things to run the container. You should have a container underscore name, whatever the name you want to give, you can give it to that. Then you should have an image. This is the actual official, or whatever the image you are going to consider to run your docker container. This name has to come from the docker hub where they are maintaining the image. So this is the image you will type, and the volumes on the left hand side, these are the folder which you are going to bind to the actual container image. So this is the var/www/html is given by the your official image which you are using. And once you have wrote the volumes, you have to bind the ports. 3006 is your port which you are going to run, and this port 80 which you are going to bind. Okay, so these are the only 4 things. If you write correctly, you will be able to run the container, but make sure you have wrote the 3.8 or whichever the latest version you are going to use for docker compose, the service name, and inside that service you will have the service name, and inside the service you have this fourth thing. Thank you guys, see you.